Hello and welcome to this episode of Tarot Rebel Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Gogo.
And Chess, we are not responsible for awakening or spooking the masses.
Welcome to the spookiest episodes of Tarot Rebel Podcast in the history. Boo. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
That was a spooky beginning. I like that.
I think so. I got a little creeped out just listening.
Right? You know what? I think it's that previous song choice we had. That was literally the scariest shit I have ever heard. Out of
I'm digging it though. The scarier, the spookier, the better.
It is, but oh my god.
This is my favorite time of year, like Halloween.
Girl, you know it's me too. It's me too.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about this episode. We've been waiting to do this one for a minute now, and like it is here.
It is finally here.
It's gonna.
Wish it could last for an entire year, which would be freaking amazing.
Yes, it's gonna be a spooky good time.
Yeah, but today you said you have something you wanted to speak about on your segment, so here we go.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on with Chess?
Yeah, what the F is going on, right?
I wanted to sing, but I mean, it's a spooky episode. I don't want to scare people too much.
Yeah, but it's Halloween, so
yeah.
You know, we're gonna talk about all the things that go bump in the night. It just comes with the territory. So
exactly.
Today I want to talk about spiritual attack. Okay.
Ooh,
and I know some of you out there are like, oh my God. And
those demons.
The reason I want to talk about it is because, interesting enough, I have been getting messages from friends and clients, even colleagues in the community about this. And for some reason, they're coming to me about it. And they're like, Chas, I have reason to believe that, I'm a victim of spiritual attack. And they go into the whole thing and tell me their stories. And I just found it interesting. I'm like, why is it that I'm getting hit up about this?
Oh, yeah.
Was I some sort of exorcist in a former life? Like, I don't know what it is. Probably. But I'm I mean, I keep getting hit up about this, and I'm like, I'm asking, spirit. I'm like, this is like a common theme recently? Like, what's up? Is like, are you trying to tell me something? Like, was I a Ghostbuster? Was I an exorcist?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Did I do exorcisms in a former life? Like, what's up? Okay.
Listen, honestly, I will tell you, it's very interesting because this week, and I think it's normal considering we are entering we are already at the doors of Halloween and Shemaine and everything else. So it was interesting for me because this week it was especially packed with people who were asking about spiritual things more than it normally happens. And I had a very interesting reading, which I actually really loved, because it was ancestral spirits coming through for a person and wanting to work with them. So rather than a spiritual attack, so kind of going off the topic, but wanting to work with this person, wanting to be honored, wanting to be seen and noticed. So it's interesting. It's definitely that spooky spirit season. So it makes sense. But I will let you speak about your topic. So what do you have for us?
No, I always, when I talk about this is because I want your 2 cents on this as well. So, this is like a kind of a give and take sort of thing. Like that's why I bring it up, because, you and I are in this line of work and we come across these, situations and so on and so forth. So, but the reason why I want to bring it up, it's not in the sense to like scare people or anything like that. It's because oftentimes in my experience, I find that not to be funny, but people don't know the difference between spiritual attack and like fucking Murphy's Law. Like,
True, yeah.
I mean, sometimes they think, um, like just a DVD falling off like the table is spiritual attack, or just
Mm-mm.
something that is pretty much like, I walked out of the
A
house and it started
ghost.
raining. As soon as I walked out of the house, I'm being spiritually attacked, and I'm just staring like, no, it's just called the weather.
Yeah. It would
Like
be a spiritual
a
attack if
passing
like
cloud of
yeah,
rain.
it would be a spiritual attack if a piano falls on your head. Then it's a fucking demon.
I mean,
Even like past a spiritual attack, that's a fucking demon.
yeah, yeah, and I've had instances in the past where I've found that there's just uh certain people who have this acute paranoia that every little wrong thing that happens in their lives is immediately spiritual attack, and that's not always the
No,
case.
no.
And honestly, I feel like that's kind of an invitation for making the real shit happen, really. Like, if you're over
True.
here, like, thinking everything that's happening that's not pleasant is spiritual attack,
Yeah.
and you keep throwing that out into the universe, well, guess what? the
Here we
real
go.
the real shit may happen because you keep throwing that sort of negativity out there. and i
Exactly, yeah. You make yourself
and
a
I
match.
yeah, and like I said, I've been getting hit up recently about this, and then I read the messages, and I'm just like, this doesn't really entail spiritual attack. It just kind of feels like you're having a bad fucking day. Like, you know what
True.
I mean?
True. Yeah. It's bad luck, girl. It ain't ghosts. It ain't that witch across the town. It's
I
just
mean, I'm not trying to minimize anyone's experience or
no, by any
diminish,
means.
but
I
it's
mean,
just, I think it's something that, and you and I always go in about stuff like this. When things become too mainstream, when things become too saturated in the community, everybody wants to put a label on something.
yeah,
And I feel like, as far as the whole concept of, quote unquote spiritual attack, it's always when something is happening to them. You know what
exactly.
I
Yeah,
mean? And I feel essentially people just want to put that label sometimes, to, I'm going to be honest, to victimize themselves. And this is not saying for everybody, but I've seen certain people do this to victimize themselves. Oh, I'm being spiritually attacked. You
yeah,
know what I mean? And, automatically, as someone would be like, oh my God, really? Like,
yeah,
and I just feel like sometimes it's just a tactic for certain people to just victimize themselves. And essentially the
get
people that tend
attention.
to do that, it's not them being spiritually attacked at all. It's just, like I said, it's just Murphy's law, having a bad fucking day, or just circumstantial things happening to them,
Yeah, yeah,
you know and I'm just, I'm gonna call a spade a spade. Not
yeah. True.
everybody understands the real ins and outs of that happening.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I tell people my stories about it, then they look at me like, oh, that's never happened to me. I'm like,
Hmm.
exactly.
Same for me.
Because
Same for me.
if you don't really want to know what that shit is like,
No.
trust me, it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like I said, you're going outside and, it starts raining and your umbrella breaks kind of shit. No, spiritual
No.
attack is crazy shit.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to talk about it today, because I don't think people really understand the gravity of the concept. People just
No.
want, bad things in their eyes that happen to them is immediately, oh my God, I'm being spiritually attacked. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And another
So
thing,
if you had to think of, I don't know, let's say two or three things that to you would ring, okay, this is a spiritual attack. It would be like, okay, this is happening. How would you recognize it for anybody that's listening? That may be like, oh, maybe this is going on for me, maybe it's not. So it'll be like your, I don't know, two or three pointers to know that it is a form of spiritual attack. And also,
okay,
how would you define spiritual attack as well? I took over for a second there.
And that's a wonderful question, and I'm so glad that you asked that, because that's pretty much where I was getting at, because I
Yeah,
was like, I'm gonna break it down, you know, the top kind of indications,
yeah,
or the occurrences that are indicative of spiritual attack. Okay,
yeah.
guys.
Because
So first,
your
yeah.
boyfriend not being a good partner doesn't mean you're under spiritual attack. Like this is the number one thing for me. Everybody's like, "Oh,
I got dumped.
my
I got dumped,
relationship
so
is falling
I'm being
apart.
spiritually attacked.
Yeah, my partner's cheating. Like they're an asshole." And I'm like, "That's not fucking spiritual attack. That's just them being a fucking jerk." Okay, or her,
I'm just
non-gender
saying.
binaries, whatever. Like everybody.
Uh, I'm just saying, or my boyfriend dumped me for my ex, or and I'm like, dude, that and I think somebody did some juju, and I'm spiritually attacked, and that's why he broke up
Yeah,
with me, got back with his ex, so he got with somebody else. I'm like, I'm looking into the camera like,
exactly. Like there's a meme that I recently saw, and I'm getting off topic as well. um,
it's
a
okay.
client of mine
This is what we
posted it.
do. This is what we
Yeah,
do.
I think yeah, it was something along the lines of, if somebody else is able to take your partner, be fucking thankful,
I mean,
right?
yeah.
Because if they're able to be taken by somebody, that means that they were never really there to stay.
And I know that's gonna ruffle feathers. A lot of
It
people are gonna get
is.
salty.
Like
But you
last
know
time,
what,
we do
guys?
not apologize for ruffling feathers.
No, we don't.
I mean,
And
fuck's sake.
I mean, doing this as long as we have, and you tend to hear the same kind of stories.
Exactly.
And when it comes to the
Exactly.
love and relationship scenarios, that's pretty much about 80% of the readings we do. We hear these sort of things, and oh my gosh, it's so funny that you bring that up about breakups and
Oh yeah.
issues with the boyfriend or the girlfriend, and
Yeah.
immediately shit goes awry between them, they break up, and it's automatically some kind of black magic or spiritual attack. And I'm like, no, homie, he just decided he don't want to be with your ass no more.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like,
And it's
like,
there's a difference when somebody is truly spiritually attacked and they approach you versus somebody that is making that up in their mind. There's
right,
definitely a
okay, so
difference. You can notice. But anyways,
yes.
so how would you define spiritual attack? Yeah,
All right.
attack.
And again, I'm basing this solely on my personal experiences
Yeah.
and that of those close to me. Okay.
Okay.
First indication would be just unknown physical ailments just like surfacing out of the blue.
Okay.
Okay. Like if you all of a sudden feel like my chest is hurting, I got a headache, and just feeling this extreme sense of discomfort, um that could most certainly be an indication when it just comes up out of nowhere, and you have this sense of dread or discomfort about it. Okay. Um i i remember for like a couple of days I had this really just bad headache, and I do suffer from migraine, so I was like, okay,
Yeah.
this is a migraine. But then I remember the feeling I had attached to it, and it was just a feeling of like fear and dread just kind of like surfacing out of the blue. And I remember I felt like I was bugging out, like something. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Right?
Yeah.
So, okay, that's most certainly one indication that I would say, just out of the blue physical ailments.
Yeah.
Okay. Out of nowhere, and like if you look at history and the concept of voodoo dolls, they tend to cause physical ailments, they tend to cause even fractures or breaks
Yeah.
or anything like
True.
that, unknown. Another thing to attach to this would be unknown scratches or bruises.
Okay.
Okay. um I have woken up with scratches on my back out of nowhere, bruises, things like that. um some would assume that maybe you hurt, you banged yourself in the middle of the night. I'm a very sound sleeper, G.
Yeah.
Okay. I am a sound sleeper. I don't move around like that. If I do, I move around a couple of times while I'm awake just to get comfortable,
Yeah.
but once I'm out, I'm out. I'm like a log. I ain't moving.
See, I'm
Okay.
different. I move around. I mean, like everything is wrapped around me. The blanket, the sheets, everything. I fall off the bed. So me getting bruised in the night is not such a such a strange occurrence. But
Yeah,
continue. I
okay.
get what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, but as far as the scratches, like I've woken up with scratches like on a diagonal,
Oh,
like in weird ways and like spread out and deep.
okay.
So I have woken up with that before and I was just like, what the hell? And sometimes a zipper gets caught and it scratches you from your pillow, whatever.
Yeah,
Um, but these particular marks were just bizarre. And I
yeah,
remember at the time I had asked my ex-boyfriend, I was like, yo, what I got like my neck hurts a little bit, and he was like, "Oh my god, you got like these weird scratches." And I remember he took a picture, and it was like deep diagonal. It looked literally like claw marks on the
damn.
back of my neck, dude. And I was just like, "What the hell is that?" Right?
Yeah,
And he was like, "That is so weird." He was like, "Even if it was a zipper or whatever." He was like, well, why would it be so spread out and so deep like that? So,
yeah. You would
um,
have to continuously get
exactly.
caught on the zipper.
Yeah. So that is one indication, like I said. But like I said, if you're an active sleeper, then don't this might not apply. Like but as the scratches and the rare marks might definitely be you could definitely apply that. So that's one indication. Another would be really lucid nightmares. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sure a lot of you saw The Craft. I know it's a fiction, but that shit is true to life, because you remember when they went to attack her, they were trying to attack her in her dreams, trying to strangle her.
yeah.
Remember that?
I think that was the first line of attack, right?
Yeah, that was the first line of attack, and it usually starts with the dreams. For me, it has started with dreams, lucid nightmares where you're being physically attacked, choked, um, dragged, chased,
Oof.
whatever, like really hard. And then you may see who it is.
Okay.
I have seen who it is in the dreams. And sometimes you don't. Sometimes you see like a shadow entity or an invisible entity in the dream that's attacking you.
Hmm.
Another indication shortly after the dreams can be sleep paralysis. Okay, so that kind of goes hand in hand. If you're having a bad nightmare
Okay.
and you're feeling the sleep paralysis, that may be an indication, guys.
I have a story about that. I'm going to include that in our main course of this podcast when we talk about the stories, because I had that happen like a week ago, so definitely need to include that. But continue.
Yes. We'll talk about that definitely. And
Yeah.
I've had that happen several times, and it was usually attached to a really bad nightmare where I'm being physically attacked by some sort of entity that couldn't see, either shadow or invisible.
Hmm.
But those that is another indication of spiritual attack, guys, like I said. And if you watch a lot of witchy movies, like I said, in The Craft, or witch board, old school like horror about spiritual attack, almost always it indicates nightmares,
Yeah.
okay, sleep paralysis and things like that. So that is definitely another indication, okay. um and like I said, again, it's something that I've experienced, as you just heard. G has experienced as well, so this is real shit.
It is.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
scary shit,
Right.
first and
Right. and
foremost.
and I would say the last and the most strongest indication is actual physical attack, where you're like being dragged off the bed, you're being grabbed, you're being restrained. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
And I have experienced that, guys. I have experienced something trying to drag me off the bed by my ankles and having like this superhuman strength, okay, trying to drag me off the damn bed. Okay, so yeah. Okay, any type of, like, again, actual physical attack, uh while you're awake
Mm-hmm.
is most definitely indication. All right. So those are my top 3 right
Okay.
there. Okay. And as you can see, everything we mentioned before, these 3 things being, having bad weather, being dumped, um,
Mm-hmm.
these are not really, this don't really fit into that kind of umbrella,
Yeah.
guys.
No, it's definitely not it. So these are some examples for people to kind of go off of. So if you had to give like a short or your own personal description of what exactly a spiritual attack would be, because I know some people come to me with the ideas that somebody is spiritual attacking them, meaning that somebody is doing magic or something on them. That
Mm-hmm.
is a form of spiritual attack, which I feel like, yes, that's one thing. And then on the other hand, you just have the spiritual attack that would be commenced by a soul spirit or demonic energy or an entity that is not kind of sent by anybody, but is doing that on their own accord. So would you say one is more accurate than the other, or would both be accurate? How would you actually pinpoint the kind of the description of a spiritual attack besides just the points that you gave in your own kind of experience?
I agree, because there's a difference between feeling like, um someone is trying to do harm on
Yes.
a kind of, someone's trying to do spell work.
Yes.
Okay. um yeah, that is another thing entirely. If you're coming to me like, I feel like somebody did something to break us up, some sort of spell, some sort of, okay, then I would, understand. Okay, right, that is plausible, that can happen, because people do that, and that there are spells, and rituals you can do, to break people up or whatever the case may be. But it's when they say I'm being attacked that always kind of throws me through a loop. Somebody trying to break you up via spell work may not necessarily indicate an actual spiritual attack, though. Because,
Okay.
see, as far as I'm concerned, again, and this is again based on my own humble experience and in my humble opinion, I mean, those are two separate things. Someone
I would
someone trying
agree.
to do
Yeah.
spell work is spell work, but someone to actually want to attack is attack. Let's think about the definition, Webster's definition of attack, right? When you're attacking something, what is it? You're trying to
Applying
do
force to
physical
harm.
harm.
Yeah. Applying force to harm another thing or being, pretty much.
Right, exactly. So it's always a physical manifestation of some kind.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not really experiencing a physical manifestation aside from, being dumped or the dude not wanting to mess with you no more, then that doesn't really apply to what spiritual attack really
Mm-hmm.
is. And other people will be like, "Oh, there's variables, there's this, there's that." I'm like, not really. Okay,
Mm,
because if you talk to people who are practitioners, okay, that
yes.
do this line of work, they will tell you, okay, so what you want me to do? You just want me to do a little spell, a little ritual, to send out energy to break somebody up, or you want me to do some shit? They'll tell you,
Yeah, that's how
do
you
you
know you're
want?
talking to a serious practitioner. If you're asking for
Okay,
if
if
you
you,
get the option of real stuff versus just, I mean, I don't want to discredit any type of work. Like everything has validity, but certain things are you could consider child's play compared to other things that are much more intricate and can cause much more harm at the end of the day.
exactly, because again, there's levels to this shit, ladies and gentlemen. So if you, let's say for instance, somebody comes into, a shop or whatever, or they go see a practitioner, okay,
Yeah.
that does magic, okay, and like by definition, because this is Halloween, the darker shit,
Mm-hmm.
okay, all right, and you're like, I want to break somebody up. I want to do some harm. They're gonna just look at you like, I, what you want to do? Because there's levels. You want to
Yeah,
physically, you just want me to send out bad juju, like bad energy, because I could do that. I could send out some bad energy, but if you want me to do harm, I could do that too.
yeah,
So you see, there's levels, G.
yeah,
But most of the time when I'm being spoken to people about spiritual attack, they're like, my boyfriend doesn't want to talk to me. He broke up with me. Um, somebody's hating on me, and they're trying to sabotage my business, and like I went outside and it started raining and my umbrella broke. My car wouldn't stop. Okay, that's more along the lines of having energy work done on you, like people are sending out bad juju. But attack is usually, once again, ladies and gentlemen, and for everybody that's listening, attack is usually a physical manifestation.
exactly. And at the
Okay.
end of the day, I feel like it's very important to look at each situation individually. I think a lot of
Right.
people just ascribe a certain story to them as well. So if they've heard somebody talk about this, they'll be like, oh, the same thing is happening to me. And I've had situations and people come to me with that. And honestly, it's been countless times by this point, um, with people coming through with those ideas and stuff like that. But I think it's very crucial to look at each situation and each example individually, because not everything is the same, right? Just
Right.
as the practitioner will use, I don't know, sometimes they will use the energy of the moon, right? They will use the energy
Mm-hmm.
of the moon to create a spell. If it's a spiritual attack in that sense, or a spell that they have done on somebody. So let's discern those two, as you said yourself, spiritual attack versus magic, right?
Right.
Sometimes they're going to use moon, or they're going to use the earth, or they're going to use some other planetary influence, and planets do shift around, so each day is a different energy, right? And that different energy will affect each person individually, and it will have a different effect. If one spell is done one day and it's done a week after, it's going to have a different effect because the energy that it was created with has been vastly shifted. Now, I feel like a lot of people confuse the aspect of the spiritual attack, meaning a spirit, a demonic energy, something along those lines, an entity, and work that is done by darker practitioners, or the dark arts, you could say, when it's a spirit entity or a demonic entity sent to them by a practitioner, if that makes sense.
Right.
So they'll use a sacrifice to summon up an entity and send that entity to a specific person. I feel like a lot
Right.
of people confuse that as well. Then you
Mm-hmm.
could say,
Very
in a
much
way,
so.
it is spiritual attack, but again, it is performed by magic. And a lot of the time, I feel like people come like, oh, I am spiritual attacked. Can we do like return to sender spell or something like that? Would that help?
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, it's the aspect of, no, this is an entity that has attached to you by accident, whether that be you crossed a certain street and that entity was there and it was drawn to your energy, or it came to your home because it was drawn to your energy, or your light. And considering that, you cannot do something like return to sender because there is no sender. It came to you willingly. So at
Exactly.
that point, it's like clearing, cleansing, and
Right.
burning that shit
Expelling it,
away.
just
Yeah, quite
expelling the
literally.
energy.
So I feel like there has
Exactly.
to be a discernment when it comes to these things. And
Thank
I
you.
feel like
And thank you for
that's where,
that.
yeah, I think that's where we come into play, because we can see what's going on and point the person in the right direction.
Right.
Because like spiritual attack, dang, that sort of thing. That I had a small like goblin type thing look at me from the ceiling when I was reading somebody. That shit is spiritual attack. Somebody doing magic, it's a very different thing.
Absolutely. And sometimes it could, like you said, it could just attach itself to you. Sometimes it's an ancestral attachment too.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
like I said, there's variables involved, but essentially, let's say you are a victim of a physical manifestation. I'm really glad that you emphasize that it may not be someone actually doing it to you, but rather it just being attracted to you,
Exactly.
because that is what happened to me
Yeah.
when I just explained that I had something physically attack, try to like drag me off the bed. It wasn't because somebody sent it. It was because it was just there and it was attracted to me.
Yeah. And I love that
Okay.
you brought up the point of ancestral connection. I think last week I was watching TikTok and I came across certain witch talkers, and there was one girl in particular who spoke about the idea of her family or her family coven that's kind of a lineage, multiple generations, and whenever a new member of the lineage is brought into the coven, they are assigned a protector, a spirit guide or whatever. And she said that for her particular family, it is hellhounds. And she told the story of her friends coming over multiple times and hearing growling when she doesn't have a dog in the house. They would hear howling, growling, and things just moving around when there was nothing. So again, it may not necessarily be an attachment as well. It can come from the lineage, which is the reading that I pointed out before. The spirits around that person that I was reading came from the lineage. They are ancestral spirits. And if they don't like something, they're definitely going to point that out. If you're very connected to them, they're going to point that out. So it may not
Absolutely.
sometimes even be a spiritual attack. It may just be a message that you need to hear but are unwilling to hear.
Right.
So there is a lot of, that's where I feel like that's the point. You have to treat each situation individually, get as much information as you can, and then approach the situation. Don't treat it as something that you have heard or compare it to something that you know. Treat it
Right.
individually as you would like a regular person. You would get to know them. So with that in mind, treat the situation alike. Get to know what's
Mm.
going on, find out as much as you can, and then go from that point on. You will, if you go to a spiritual practitioner and they give you good information, you will know what you need to do next. Or if
Absolutely.
you are a spiritual practitioner, sorry, not that's not a word, practitioner. There we go.
Practitioner.
Practitioner, like,
Predict.
see,
I think I'm a predictioner.
yeah, I mean, we to be predictioners.
I think that's us. We're predictioners.
I like that.
Me
I would
too.
use that,
I could dig
predictioner.
it. I could dig it for
Yeah.
real.
Okay. New title, predictioner.
All right, I'm with it. What are you? I'm a predictioner.
Yeah.
How
What
about
do you
that?
do? I read tarot and I'm a predictioner. Fuck you. What do you do with your life?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's I for this, what the F segment, you know what I mean? I think this was something that
Yeah.
I wanted to address because it's something, like I said, that has been coming up a lot, especially for
Yeah.
me lately. And I thought it would be very important and
Oh yeah.
useful
I
for
agree.
us to kind of touch on this and kind of break it down for people because you know just like I said, just by certain examples that we gave, I don't think people really understand
No.
what it entails
No.
exactly. um
No,
and
but
like you
that's
said,
again, I feel like that's the idea of what the mainstream media and what most people talk about. I think at the end
yeah,
of the day, you can only pull conclusions and ideas from the things that you have heard and the things that you have learned. And I know that most people are not going to go into the topic because they fear it's going to get even worse. But that's the exact opposite. The more you learn about it, the more power you have over it, the more
right.
knowledge you have how to combat it, the more knowledge you have how to actually get rid of it or whatever needs to be done in that moment. So, people, if you feel there is something going on, if there is something strange in the neighborhood, Ghostbusters.
Yes.
Don't call the Ghostbusters first. Try and see what you can learn. And if that means going to a practitioner that's going to be able to give you more information, do that. If you can do that on your own, do that. But as the
And
last thing that I would say, stay
yeah.
safe, be protected. If you feel something is going on, first and foremost, try and clear and cleanse yourself, do some protection work. It can be simple as a meditation or a visualization, and then
Right.
go forth in search of information. That's my two
And
cents.
you know who else I'm gonna blame, and I'm gonna put this out there. And like I said, you know how we roll, G. We keep it real. We keep it 100 in this podcast.
Hell yeah.
I would say a lot to blame for this is all these bullshit readers and
Hmm.
practitioners that are like, all over Instagram and whatever. And the first thing they want to tell you is, you know, because something happened to you, somebody's doing black magic, or they, you know, send something to attack you. And they put this, you know, idea in people's heads that are not very familiar with this stuff, because this is what's happened to me. I've had clients come to me and tell me, oh, I've had another reader tell me I was having black magic done, I'm being attacked. And I'm like, I'm over here just I haven't even pulled cards. I'm just going right off the dome with my intuition. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, what? Because like I said, I've dealt with clients in the past that have had bad juju with them, and I've seen physical manifestations of what's attached to them and
Yeah.
things like that. You already know.
And if you
So
intuit well, you'll be able to know right from the get-go, as you said, even before you start pulling cards, you will be able to know something is going on because energetically, it's a very different feeling. You'll feel that
absolutely.
darkness. You will feel that.
Absolutely.
I
And
don't
I've
know how
had
to even
people
explain
come
it.
to
There's a
me.
difference.
I've had, you know, clients come to me and tell me that other readers have told them this shit. Meanwhile, back at the farm, ain't nothing going on with them. They're just saying that to extort money for supplies and, you
Yeah,
know, oh, buy this candle off of me, buy these herbs or whatever, and this will repel whatever's attacking you and shit like that. And it's these sort of charlatans
yeah,
that put these things in, you know, people's heads, and it's a terrible, horrible thing. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I know what you mean. The number of
Because
times
I've
I had people who come to me and say that, just as you pointed out yourself, it's insane. Like people paying hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in order to get rid of something that may not even be there in the first place,
no,
or if it is, there is nothing that's being done about it. And then in that aspect, the person who is extorting money becomes that negativity that you're trying to combat.
that's exactly right. And they prey on unsuspecting people, people who are not familiar with the dark arts,
Exactly.
or the, you know, magical arts, or the how rituals and spell work, you know, how it goes down.
Yeah,
They prey on people who don't know no better. By definition, the muggles. They prey on the muggles that don't really know about this stuff, that are,
exactly.
you know, they want some clarity, they want some answers, and they give them this so that they could keep coming back to them,
Yeah,
and that they
exactly.
could keep extracting money from them. And it's a terrible thing. And like, I would say a good chunk of the time too, that's the case, because I've had people come to me, and I, like I said, right off the gate, energetically, I would feel nothing's being attacked, nothing's attacking them.
Yeah,
And I'm like, listen, I don't even got to pull cards to tell you if I felt someone was doing harm, or there's any type of physical attack or harm happening to you, I would feel it. Or like I said, sometimes I would actually see physical manifestations of what's attached. I don't see anything, I don't feel anything. So whoever told you this is full of shit. And I would
yeah.
keep it 100. I would tell them, and they would be so flabbergasted. I had one client that told me, are you sure? I've been
Mhm.
going to this person for years. I said, this person is bullshitting you. I'm gonna tell you right now. I said, how much money you spent on candles? How much money you spent on herbs? How much money you spent on any type of products they gave to you, oils or whatever? And then she was like, oh my god. You know, like I said,
Yeah,
that's what it was, right? She told you
yeah,
something's attacking you. Buy my candle, buy my oil, buy this, buy that, and that'll get it away, right? That'll repel it,
exactly. Yeah,
or
yeah,
you know, expel it back or send it back, right? That's what she
yeah,
told you. And she was just like, oh my God. And I said, let me ask you another question. You came across this person on Instagram, right? Because that's where all these crooks are. Most of them are on Instagram sending random messages. I could read you. Somebody, you know, I could expel someone doing magic on you. Da, 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 da. And, you know, people not knowing any better, they invest in these people.
yeah.
I've had these messages, and that's what made me laugh. I had people hitting me up with these messages, and I'm like, really? Deleted, blocked, get out my face, because I know you full of shit for a fact.
I
Get out of
already
here.
mentioned this on the podcast, but it's very interesting because our Instagram profile, for anybody who doesn't know, we do have an Instagram and we do have a Twitter. So do follow us on there. Everything Terrible Podcast. But a lot of the messages that we have gotten Instagram or requests for messages have been, I can read you. I do love readings. One of them I know specifically was, I do twin flames. I can read who your exact twin flame is. I can give you their name, their birth date, and everything else. And I'm like,
Oh,
bitch, if you only
don't
knew
even. That's another
who you
episode.
talking to. Like that's a completely different episode. Like if you knew who we were, like that just tells you how much research they do because they will hit up anybody, right? It specifically says
Yeah.
Tarot Rebel Podcast, so it's not presented as a personal profile. It is a business
It's a
profile.
bot.
And
Yeah, they send it out
it
as a
says
bot.
tarot. It says tarot in the title, for fuck's sake. So
Yeah.
with that being said, do you want to jump into the stories?
Yes. And
Who will go
yeah,
first?
guys, so that's my episode for today, and I really do hope it was helpful and enlightening, because
Yes.
I just want you guys to know, if you really, like I said, this is not diminishing any experiences or devaluing anyone's experience. I'm just telling you, oftentimes people misconstrue the actual process of what an attack is and what it entails. So that's,
Yeah.
we just wanted to shed light on that.
Exactly.
We just want to keep it real with you, because we are by definition ethical readers. We don't go out there trying to be crooks and lying to people. You know what I'm saying? That's not how we roll.
Mm,
Okay, so that's why, we're spreading the truth out here, because
exactly.
a lot of readers out there are probably going to get mad as hell at us. And you know what? I say it is what it is, because
We don't give a
it's
fuck.
we don't, because it's honestly these BS readers that make us that do this look bad.
Exactly. You know what? The message that I send everybody when they are hitting me up and asking, "Are you for real?" Because I've been tricked in the past. The only thing that I say to those types of people is, if I read for you and I lie to you, what's the likelihood of you coming back to me? Because for me, it's not the aspect of having a client come through one time, but somebody that I can work with on a consistent basis and see the progress that they are making. Whether that be with a personal goal, whether that be with something that they are trying to achieve, a relationship, a business, a job application, whatever it is. I want to see you come back to me in a month or 2 months or a week and say, like, okay, this happened. We made progress. So if I lie to you from the get-go, where is that going to get me? So
Exactly.
there's that.
Exactly. Again, and we spoke about this very early on in
Yeah.
our episode, our segment, or yeah, our episode
Yeah.
on how to get the most out of a reading.
I think it was
Guys,
episode 2.
yeah, we went in very early on about this, okay? And again, I'm just going to repeat it, and then we could we can move on, but I just want to emphasize this again.
Yeah.
Do your research, okay?
Exactly. Yeah.
Do your damn research. If you don't feel comfortable with what is being said to you about these readers, it's because they're BSing you. Okay. Trust yourself. If you feel like, damn, what they're saying is just extreme, and they're, automatically like 5 minutes into the reading, trying to sell you products. Yeah, you're dealing with a crook. Okay. Like I said, do your research, see the reviews with this reader, whoever it is. And yeah, because if you see that this person doesn't have a lot of follows, or this person has no real website, just like a Cash App, something like that, I mean, that's an indication right there. This is just a crook trying to take your money, for real. Research, research, research. And I'm going to just leave it at that.
Yeah. Exactly. There is nothing more to add to that. So, who's going to tell the first story today?
I'll give you, because I just did my segment, and I
Okay.
was just yapping. So I'm going to give you the floor now.
Okay. So, I'm thinking, based on the time, let's do 2 stories each. And if we have more time, let's do more. So, I'm going to tell you the kind of the scariest story. And then the second one is going to be the one that happened the latest. I'm actually going to get my journal because I wrote about that shit and it was like 2 weeks ago. So the first story, and you're very familiar with it, Chas, because you have gave me some information about it as well, is when I had an attachment last year, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it was last year.
Mm.
So the story goes, I went to my cousin who lives in a neighboring country, and while there, we went out, got a couple of drinks, and to point this out, as I jump into the story, we were not drunk. I think we had one beer each or two beers, and we were going home, planning on watching a movie, and even going to a theater. So as we go home, we couldn't go the usual route as it was closed down. And it's very fortunate, as a lot of these horror stories are like, oh, you can't go that way, you have to go this way, and then some shit happens. So here we go.
Always.
It's an
Every time.
it's like every single horror movie. So
Pretty much.
we go by this school, and it's like a very, very nicely lit, so we can see pretty much everything, but there is one dark corner. And as we are approaching this corner, there was a very loud, high-pitched noise. The best way I could describe it is combining a siren with somebody screaming, which is creeping in and of itself. Like, we stood, like, we just stopped and looked around, and there was nothing, and we
Whoa.
brushed it off as like, oh, it's just a siren somewhere. So we go past that corner, and I just glance, and I saw something, but I was like, okay, I'm not gonna even acknowledge it. Like, I'm on my break. I took a couple of days off work. I'm just like, I'm not dealing with any sort of spiritual shit at this point. Like, no demons, no ghosts, nothing. So we go past that, and we get very close to my cousin's apartment. And as we approach, the feeling of, I would call it like fear and dread, became more and more exaggerated, to the point where my cousin is not super spiritual. Like, I bought her a deck of cards as a birthday present, and she reads from them occasionally, but she's not super in tune as, for example, me and Chas are. And it came to the point where she asked me, do you feel something? And I'm like, yes, I've been feeling it for a couple of minutes now, and it's kind of following us to your apartment, basically. So at that point, once she said that, the entity made itself more known by me hearing the actual footsteps. And like any good devil story, it was the sound of the what's the name? Oh my god, the hooves. It sounded like hooves, but not two, four. So I tried to kind of feel out the situation, and what I got was a creature that I can most closely describe to as a mixture of a gargoyle and a hyena. So
Mm.
its back legs were shorter than its front legs, and to go into the feet metric, I would say it was about 7 feet tall. I stand at almost 6 feet. So this shit was taller than me. And it was on four legs. So if by chance it could stand on two legs, I would imagine it would go even taller, to about 10 feet or something.
Wow.
So that happens. And I just say, like, let's go to the apartment as quickly as possible. So we do that. And we enter the apartment. And as soon as we did that, we were super high energy, right? To say that from the get-go. As soon as we entered the apartment, I felt that shit banging on the building. Thank God I protected the building beforehand, in a previous visitation to my cousin. Just like, I deal with this shit, so I never want to leave something hanging at somebody's house. And I wanted to come into the apartment building. So it was kind of banging on the door because I kept hearing like banging noises and ringing in my ears. And we came into her room completely dead. Like, we just ran a marathon, like through the fucking desert. That fucking level of exhausted. So that happens, and I'm like, we sit there for a couple of minutes and get undressed and everything else. And it's like, okay, let's deal with this shit one way or another. So I did another round of protection, clearing, cleansing. It stopped. But the entity below had awoken an entity from the apartment above my cousin's. So that entity started to act up, and that was more so a human spirit that has crossed over, but has still been lingering in the in the building. It's still not left the building. So that started to act up. Needed to do a complete clearing cleansing again. And with that, I thought my chores are done. So I went home a couple of days later, and everything was good. Everything was PC for, I want to say, a month to maybe even 2 months. I think it may be 2 months. When I started to notice footsteps behind me. And it wasn't hooves, but I was noticing like noises, like footsteps behind me. And after a couple of weeks, I would literally hear the hooves. And I felt like something was leaning over my shoulder all the time. Something was looking and trying to get to me. Though it was not attacking. I did try to do uh, a clearing and cleansing for myself and to send that away, which this is where you come in as well. I did that, and I think I tried to do it twice, but as soon as I started the ritual, I would just get completely exhausted. I could not pull in energy, I could not direct energy, nothing. I would just get an extreme case of vertigo and feel completely beat. And that's where, again, you come in, because then we had the conversation about what that was. And you said it was something that somebody had made or called up, and they had passed and not relieved this entity of its duties. And one interesting thing was that it was afraid of church bells, which you also pointed out, maybe because the person was buried in a traditional Catholic funeral, which would mean they would have gone through the church, or the church would ring its bells as the funeral was happening. With that being said, that was going on for a while, and after you pointed that out, it took me another couple of weeks before I could revisit my cousin again. That thing came with me, no wonder. And it was at that point that we were able to to do a ritual with my cousin, because I literally couldn't do it alone, to relinquish it. And let me tell you, it did not work for just me and my cousin to do it. I literally had to call on a spirit that I have been working with, and I had to use demonic energy to get rid of that thing. So the Demon Tarot, if you heard of that one, it's an
Mm-hmm.
oracle deck, actually,
Yes.
but the Demon Tarot is the name. I've been working with those energies in the past, and at that point, I was heavily trying to figure out what was going on. So I pulled a couple of cards from that deck that the energies were talking about the protection, clearing, cleansing. So it didn't just take me and my cousin, it took two or three additional spiritual helpers in order to get rid of that thing. To basically, the visualization that came up was that thing was chained up and taken somewhere far, far away, because it could not be destroyed. So there's my first story. So happy times, like literally happy times. Like
Ooh, that's a doozy.
every time I went by a window, I felt that thing looking at me, quite
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
You know that time that we spoke, and I was the whole time I was just squirming around, looking around. Literally, as we were talking, that thing was looking at me. Oh, a fun thing as well. It could climb trees as well.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Ooh, that's a
if it
doozy.
wasn't behind me, it was on a tree above me, looking down at me. So it's very fun. It's very fun. So your turn.
And I think these are the scariest stories because these are actual experience,
literally,
paranormal,
literally, and oh my god, it's
paranormal experiences that we
uh,
have in fact had. Okay, and um, unfortunately, because of what we do and the abilities we have,
we
we
attract a
tend
lot.
to we attract some again entities that not may not always be pleasant. So
Yeah.
I too have a similar story.
Okay. Do tell.
Um, it was about 10 years ago, and I was spending the summer with relatives. It was the end of the summer. It was about August, and I was spending the last few weeks of the summer with them. And they had like a beautiful house out in the countryside. And like I remember right in the back of their house was a big old farm and like crops, they were growing back there. So it was a big farm, a lot of farmland behind them. And I was staying in the guest bedroom, which was kind of like an attic bedroom. It was
Okay.
interesting because it was above the office, my cousin's office, and
Hmm.
it sort of like resembled, yeah, it was kind of the top of the house. So it was like an attic room basically.
Yeah.
Um, I thought it was pretty neat because to get up to the room, you had to like go up a little ladder to get to the room.
Yeah.
And so I kind of was attracted to it because of that. I thought it was cool. So I picked that room. But they had two guest bedrooms, right?
Yeah.
So so the first I would say the first yeah, it was like the first night I was there, I was in that guest bedroom. And one thing, living in the countryside, as you know, G, when the lights go off, it's pitch black.
Oh yeah.
So
I'm
you can
familiar. I'm familiar.
you, you can't see like not even your hand in front of you, okay?
No.
And at the time I was still living in New York City, so born and raised city girl, I'm used to lights and noise and all that stuff. So it was pitch black, it was quiet as a mouse, it was like deafening silence. So I remember just kind of being a little freaked out. All right.
Hmm.
And there was one window in the room, and it was facing the back of the house where the farmland was, where the farm was. So I couldn't sleep, I was like tossing and turning, and then I remember just kind of looking out the window, and I saw like these shadow figures, like just running back and forth in the field.
Okay.
Okay, like just back and forth, just running back and forth, and I was just like
I'm scared shitless already.
I'm like, what the hell? Okay. So I just turned over, like I'm not looking out the window again. Like,
You wish.
and I'm I'm high up because I'm in the attic room, and I could see down into the field, and I'm looking down and seeing all these like figures just running back and forth. Okay, in the field.
Yeah.
So that was my first experience, and then yeah, I pretty much didn't sleep that night. So the next day when I woke up and everything, I told, when I did manage to sleep, I don't know, maybe an hour or two, because I was terrified that entire night.
Hmm.
When I woke up that morning, I spoke to my cousin's wife and I said, hey, you mind if I switch rooms? It was a little creepy. And she's like, yeah, it is, it does get dark up there. And I said, yeah, no shit.
Hmm. To say
You
the
know what I
least.
mean? So, I mean, and not for nothing, when I go to sleep, I like darkness. I don't like to have light on unless it's my salt lamp. I really don't like light in my room to sleep with. You know how some people are scared of the dark and they keep certain
Yeah.
lights on? If I do have a light, it'll be very dim because I can't sleep with light on. It's distracting to me. So anyway,
Yeah.
the following day I switched rooms. I went into the other guest room, which was a lot nicer, because it had its own private bathroom.
Okay.
So I was like, this is cool because now I could just, I have my own bathroom. I felt a
Five-star
little,
hotel.
yeah, I felt bougie. I was like, oh, this one got a guest bath. So
Nice.
I was like, all right, I'm gonna stay in this one. And yeah, so, and they had a TV with a cable box, so I was straight.
Hell yeah.
So I was watching a movie, and I started like dozing off, right? So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm getting tired. So I turned the TV off, and yeah, so it was dark in there, but it wasn't as dark as the attic room because there was two windows. So it was a little brighter in there.
Yeah.
Um but yeah. So I'm, tossing and turning a bit, trying to get comfortable. And right in the corner of the room, like I remember it was the left corner of the room by the doorway,
Hmm.
I saw some type of figure
Ooh.
there in the corner,
Okay.
right? And it was like full on, full apparition. It wasn't like like a shadowy figure or like anything like that. It was like like I said, full apparition.
Yeah.
And it was in the corner, like just staring at me. And at first,
Shit.
I was just like, what the hell am I staring at? Okay. Because I never seen anything like it before. It was, I remember it looked almost human, but it wasn't. It
Ooh.
was,
Ooh.
it was a little taller. It was a little taller, like you mentioned. You know what you saw was taller. This was definitely taller
Mm-hmm.
than me. The skin was like grayish
Ooh.
colored.
Okay.
It was grayish. It was like a grayish texture, and it was like it looked burned, like it had like soot, like ash.
Ooh.
There was parts of the body that had ash, or like I don't know. Yeah, it just looked like parts of the body was burned
Oh,
or
praise
whatever.
Satan.
Yeah, and it had no hair,
Mm-hmm.
right? It was bald. It had no hair. It had
Fun.
black. It had big black eyes and like sharp teeth or whatever.
Ooh,
And
shit.
it was male. It looked male because it had like a male chest,
Mm-hmm.
and then it had like shorts, like it looked like denim shorts that were like cut off,
Okay.
right?
Fashionable.
Yeah. And then like
Love me a
it
fashionable
looked it
demon.
looked parts of it did look human, but parts of it didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like the
Yeah.
chest part and the legs, but then the hands were a little longer and it had claws,
Oh,
right? And then the
shit.
feet were a little bigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like I said, it resembled a male because it had like a male chest, and it had the torn shorts, right?
Yeah.
And then I remember it just staring at me in the corner, and it was heaving really hard, like it was heaving like that, just
Oh,
staring at me and heaving.
okay.
And I'm just like, I think because of the fear and just like being caught off guard with it, I was staring back at it, and we were having like a staring contest. I don't know for how long,
Damn.
you know?
Because it's almost like the angels in the Doctor Who. If you blink or look away, they gonna get you.
Yeah. I was literally staring at it for like, I would say, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, maybe more. I was just staring at it, and it was staring at me, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. At that point, I was like, because it's heaving and it looks like it was about to attack or do something.
Yeah.
So I'm just at that point, I'm just staring at it like, okay, what you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? Like what
Yeah.
at some point I was just saying to myself, like, what do you want? You know what I'm saying? Because it was just like there and it was staring at me.
Yeah.
And then then I guess to kind of break the staring contest we were having, I guess it decided to mock me. And it just kind of went like this, and it waved at me. And
Ooh, fuck no.
it went like this to me. Like, like
Mm-hmm.
hi.
No,
Like
bitch.
hi,
No.
like
No, 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 no.
when you wave and you kind of, make your
Yeah.
fingers go up and down and
Like, yeah,
whatever, like
those creepy,
hi.
like, oh, I'm gonna kill you later.
Like it went like that to me.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point I was like, oh hell no. I like I I dove off the bed, right?
Towards it?
I dove off the bed into the bathroom
Oh.
because the bathroom was right next to me, like the doorway to the bathroom. So I dove off the bed, I ran into the bathroom, turned the light on, right? Because the switch was right there.
Yeah.
So when I turned the switch on, fucker was gone. Okay?
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So at that point, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be staying here like
Mm-hmm.
that. So I called up my other cousin, and I asked her if I could stay with her for a few days, right? And cuz I was so like shaken up by that. I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell was that? I never seen anything like that. It looked human, but it wasn't human. it honestly felt like demonic to me, and I was like, yo,
Hmm.
what the
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I ended up staying with my other cousin, and my other cousin, interesting enough, she's like fanatically religious in a way.
Okay.
And I told her, she noticed that I was just like kind of quiet and a little like, I think I was just processing and I was still freaked out.
Yeah.
So she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, not really." And she's like, "Why?" And I said, "Well, I had an experience, at your brother's house." And she's like, "Really? What kind?" And I said, "Well, I guess you can say it's paranormal.
Yeah.
I saw something." And she was
Sure.
like, "Real?" Most of the time, religious people do believe in this stuff, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So she sat down next to me and was like, what did you see? And then so I told her the whole story and what it looked like, and she was just like, "Oh my god, you saw it too?" And I was just like,
Two?
"Yeah, she's seen it too."
Oh, hell
And
no.
and check this out. Check this out. And this is literally what she told me. It is something that is attached to her family
What?
that she has seen for years. When I described it to her, I told her what it looked like, and she was like, "Yeah, did it have like torn clothes? It looked like it was burned, and it was bald." She knew exactly what it looked like.
Oh, hell no.
Right.
Okay, getting chills. Like,
I,
oh
ca-
my
I
God.
can't hear I can't hear you. You went away. Where did you go?
Getting chills all the way up my spine, all my legs, all my arms. Like, that's fucking creepy. Oh my
So
God.
yeah, so she told me that it is something that's been attached to her and her family for
Oh my
years.
God. Yes. Dear Lord.
Okay. So I was like, "Holy crap." And she's like, "I'm surprised you really saw it." And I say, "Yeah, I saw it. It didn't The funny thing is that it just looked like it was lingering there. Like it really didn't want to like fuck with me, but it just so happens I was there. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? And I
Yeah.
had just so I kind of felt like it was like, "You can see me?" Really? So kind of wave like, "Oh, you can see me, huh?"
Hi, bitch.
So
Fuck off. Hell no.
yeah, so you know what I mean? Like,
Oh my God. No, 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 no. Hell
yeah,
no.
so the twist was it was an entity that is attached to them ancestrally.
Okay.
And I had just so happened, unfortunately, to come across it. You know what I'm saying? And she told me that she has tried to expel it several times and it keeps coming back and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And, the proof of that is when I went back to New York, I never saw it again. So I
Okay.
never saw it again. But here's what's interesting.
Yes.
About two weeks after I got back was when I got physically attacked, where something tried to pull me off the bed, and I maintain it might have followed me, and probably was the thing that I saw, because I thought,
Okay.
okay, I thought I was in the clear. I was like, okay, I'm back home now, so whatever that shit was, I left it behind. Not really, because like 2 weeks later, I was physically attacked and something tried to pull me off the bed. And
Fuck
I
off.
maintain it
No.
was that I
Oh, no,
maintain it was
no.
that fucker that I
Uh-huh.
saw.
He was like,
Okay.
hey, bitch, I didn't forget about you. Oh, hell
Yeah.
no. Okay. Oh,
So yeah, when it did physically attack me is when I did what I had to do to get rid of it.
yeah.
And I did, thank goodness I got rid of it. But yeah, that shit was crazy. That I've
Mm,
never seen anything like that. And
to say the
like I
least.
said, it became attracted to me, apparently, because like I said, it followed me back to New York, and I thought I was in the clear. I really did. And then it made itself known again
Mm-hmm.
in the scariest freaking way possible.
Hell no.
So that's my story, and I think that's pretty much all we have enough for today.
Yeah. Do you want to do each like a short story? Do you have something that's like really quick to finish
um
everything off? Because I have one.
I guess I have to think about it. I'll let you go since I just told my story. So,
Okay, so a quick one, which happened pretty much within the last month, which kind of goes to the idea of the spiritual attacks and stuff like that. So, about I want to say a month ago, I got a call from my other cousin that actually lives not that far away, like 20 minutes drive away from me. Um, her and her boyfriend just recently moved into a new apartment, you could say, or a house. And it does, well, it's a house, and it does have a basement. So that's where this is going. So she calls me up and she says, I've been having trouble sleeping, first of all, and I keep waking up around 3 a.m. or like in the dead of the night, and the TV is on. So before we go to sleep in the living room, we turn the TV off and we go to the bedroom. So she says, I wake up, the TV's on, or I wake up, can't go to sleep, and then the TV turns on. So that being said, she also mentioned that she was very, as it goes, fearful of going into the basement and that she felt something was in the basement. So she asked me, I was there about 2 weeks prior to that, if I felt anything. I was like, no, nothing. I went there afterwards, nothing, ever felt anything. So that happens, and I was like, okay, um, I can come over, do a clearing or cleansing, but depending on my schedule, that may take a bit. So I pointed her, like, get some sage, get certain things, clear and cleanse, and let's go from there. So she did that. She said that she said that she felt it had gone away, and she had peace for about 2 weeks, and then it came back, and I think she did another round, and she's safe now. Now, after hearing that, I it went about a week or so after she did the first round, and that motherfucker came to me. So what happened was, for a week I was having issues sleeping. I would fall asleep very early, then I would wake throughout the entire night and wake up around 5 a.m., 4 a.m. and couldn't fall back asleep. And the climax to that week was the point where I had very weird dreams. I felt constantly attacked in the dreams, so I kept waking up after each dream. And then the final moment was where I basically felt something lay on top of me, like succubus style. And at that point, I woke up in sleep paralysis. My brain woke up and I was looking around, but my body was like dead shut. Nothing was happening. And at that point, I still felt that thing on me because I was breathing normally, but at that point, I was trying to make some sort of noise to wake my dad up, and I just started breathing because that was like the first thing. Okay, let's start. Breathe loudly. He will hear you. Nothing. He woke up, turned around, and fell back asleep. And I'm like, bitch, I'm under attack here. Come and help me. Nothing. So at that point, I woke up from the sleep paralysis and I was like, something is in the house. So it took me a little bit of time to fall back asleep. And at that point, it came back. But thankfully, I was lucid enough in my dream to call upon Hecate because I was heavily, it's interesting because it was a similar time where I was heavily researching her and I was approached by her. So I was just like, okay, if anybody is going to help me, if I can't do this myself, let's call upon her. So that's the point where I got the dream of that thing being taken away from me and brought to the court of justice by Hecate. Woke up, felt nothing, everything was clear. So that's my short story. That's like the most recent one, like 2.5 weeks ago.
mm, yeah, that experience of sleep paralysis is the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, there's a lot of psychiatrists and, like, medical professionals that talk about what that is on a neurological aspect. But
Yeah.
I mean, for me, every time, honestly, I haven't experienced it hasn't been neurological. It's been spiritual,
Yeah.
honestly.
Do you
Not that
get
I'm
the
taking it
tingles?
away. Yeah.
Because I
Yeah,
felt like tingles in both my arms, and I was like literally like a Jesus on cross, like spread out like this. How I
yeah,
sleep, like a
it's
fucking queen.
freaky.
And then I
And you
felt
know,
like on both of my arms, like there was something pressing on it, and that's why I was getting tingles. I don't know if that makes sense.
no, it does. It does. And like you try to scream, nothing comes out.
Nope,
Um it's a terrifying experience.
it
Like
is.
I'll tell you one that I had with sleep paralysis. It was a few
Yes,
years ago. Um I also had a really unpleasant, I don't know, it was just not a cool dream. I think I was being chased by something, and I was just running and running and running, and I
same.
woke up, but here's what's crazy.
Yeah.
When I woke up, my eyes were already open. I fell asleep with my eyes open.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Waking up and your eyes are already open is the most freakiest thing that can ever happen to a person. Like my eyes were open, and I remember I just woke up like, and I realized that because of the way I woke up, like my eyes were already open. And I was like, what the hell? And that was like the craziest thing that ever happened to me. You know,
Whoa.
like my eyes were already open, and then felt the rest of my body numb. And like I couldn't move, I couldn't scream. And it was just, yeah, I knew at that point I was experiencing sleep paralysis, but on another level, because of the eyes being my eyes being open, I was like, what the hell is going on? I was so freaked out.
Yeah.
And and like I
Oh,
said, you know, I could just look over. I couldn't turn my head really, but I could see
me
that.
neither.
Yeah, I could see that my ex-boyfriend was laying next to me, and he was just sound asleep, and I'm just like, you know, all I ask is just to sleep normally for once, like, you know.
Yeah. Oh,
And then I remember when the next day I told him what happened. He was like, "Oh my god, that's crazy." And he's like, "You know, Chas, I'm gonna tell you, I've noticed the past couple of months, but I thought maybe it had to do with, you know, you know, the neurological issues you have, because I do suffer with seizures." Um, he thought it had something to do with that, but he said that he would see me asleep sometimes and my eyes are partially opened.
oh crap.
Yeah, he said he had seen that, and he was just like, it freaked him out, but he just
I
assumed,
mean,
yeah, he just assumed that it had to do with that. Like it just had to do with, you know, it was something neurological. Um,
right.
and I'm not taking that away. It might have been the case, but just telling you my experience with
Yeah.
that was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And
Damn.
there was so much paranormal activity in my apartment in New York, and in the building itself, because it was a very old building,
Yeah.
um, that was built like in the early, you know, 1900s. So um, I'm sorry for the noise, guys. But yeah,
Got a
so
lot
that
of
was,
that here as well.
yeah. So yeah, so that's just a crazy experience, and that it's not cool
It
in
definitely
the
is not.
least.
It's very freaky. But yeah, with that being said, I think we are going to conclude for today.
Yes.
Yeah. So I hope everybody who has joined us has enjoyed this episode of the Spooky Tower Rebel podcast. Um, yeah, I think that we will be back next week. Since it is still this very spooky time, maybe we do something spooky as well for next week. Not necessarily as spooky as this, but maybe. You never know.
I
So
think we
yeah,
should do a part two, because, you know,
yeah,
next week we have Day of the Dead, and that's
yeah.
also an,
Dia de
you
los
know, we could
Muertos,
talk
yeah,
about that.
yeah.
Some of the traditions and the rituals that are done, and some are done actually with tarot cards, so we could talk about that too.
Ooh, that sounds interesting. Okay. Yeah, we can do that. So everybody have a great weekend. Have an amazing Halloween, Shemaine, whatever you celebrate. And yeah, I hope to see you and you check in next week.
Stay safe, guys.